In the cold darkness of space, the Xiphorian Council gathered on their floating city above the planet Alindra. Alien leaders of different shapes and colors whispered nervously among themselves. Their communications networks had received a message from Earth, an unexpected request from a species they had long considered primitive. The message was simple. We will send soldiers. The Xiphorians had hoped for a small contingent of humans, trained and disciplined but obedient. They needed reinforcements for their war against the Krath Dominion, a brutal empire that had conquered star systems without mercy. For decades, the Xiphorians had fought a difficult war, slowly losing ground. They expected Earth to provide soldiers who could follow instructions, not challenge strategy or initiative. Earth's reply, however, was far from ordinary. The humans did not simply offer troops. They offered executioners. In secret military facilities on Earth, the executioner units prepared quietly. These were not normal soldiers. They were elite operatives trained in extreme combat, survival, and psychological tactics. Every human selected for this mission had faced challenges most could not imagine and survived. They had been taught to think ahead, to see beyond conventional war, and to strike decisively when the time came. Captain Marrakesh stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Judicator, her eyes scanning the stars. Her crew moved with disciplined precision, every action coordinated and silent. To anyone watching from outside, the ship looked like a simple military vessel. But inside it was a hive of strategy, planning, and deadly efficiency. Status report, Mara said calmly. All systems operational. Captain, said Lieutenant Ron, her second in command. Xiphorian coordinates locked. They are expecting soldiers. Mara allowed a faint smile. They will get something far more. The journey through space was long, but the humans did not waste time. Every crew member trained, practiced strategies, and prepared for multiple scenarios. They studied Xiphorian battle patterns and Krath tactics, learning weaknesses and planning strikes. For them, this mission was more than a war. It was a chance to prove that humanity was not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, the Xiphorian Council grew anxious. They had seen Earth's technological advancements in communications and space travel, but this mission went beyond science. Humans had developed skills that defied expectation: adaptability, intelligence, and courage. Some council members whispered their doubts. Could humans really fight alongside the Xiphorians, or would they act independently? When the executioner fleet finally arrived in Xiphorian space, the council was waiting with ceremonial ships, expecting a polite greeting and a small army. Instead, the humans appeared as shadows in the void, sleek ships with advanced weaponry moving in perfect formation. The Xiphorians felt a chill of unease. They had not seen Earth's full strength, and already they sensed it. Mara's ship transmitted a calm message. We have arrived. We are ready to fight. It was simple, but the tone carried authority. The Xiphorians realized these were not ordinary soldiers. They were humans, yes, but humans who had been trained to execute with precision, to survive impossible situations, and to think like predators on a battlefield. The council's lead member, Elder Vaynor, addressed the human commander through holographic projection. Earth has sent soldiers. You are expected to follow Xiphorian orders and assist in the defense of Alindra. Mara's eyes did not waver. We will fight, but understand this. We fight to win. We do not merely follow orders. The words were met with stunned silence. To the Xiphorians, this was unusual, perhaps dangerous. Yet there was a truth they could not ignore. Humans had a reputation for achieving impossible victories, even against stronger enemies. As the fleet moved toward the Krath front, Mara's team reviewed the intelligence. Scouting reports indicated that Krath forces were numerous, heavily armed, and merciless. Most civilizations would fear such a challenge. Humans, however, thrived on it. They thrived on strategy, adaptability, and the challenge of facing a seemingly unstoppable enemy. Lieutenant Ron leaned over a holographic map, pointing to enemy clusters. They believe numbers make them strong. They do not understand human tactics. Then we will teach them, Mara said softly. We will show them what executioners are. In that moment, Earth's message became clear. These were not soldiers meant to follow. They were humans who would redefine the war. The Xiphorians might have asked for reinforcements, but humanity was sending something far more dangerous to their enemies. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but the path was clear. Humans had arrived. And when the Krath saw the executioners, they would not know what hit them. Mara looked at her crew, all poised and ready. "Remember," she said, "we are humanity's edge. We do not falter. We do not retreat. We execute with precision." The executioners prepared for their first strike, carrying with them the full weight of Earth's power. A new chapter in interstellar history was about to begin. The executioner fleet glided silently through Zephyrian space, their ships cutting through the dark void like shadows of intent. The Zephyrian cities, with their towering spires of silver and crystal, shimmered below, unaware of the storm that had arrived. Humans did not speak to impress. Their presence alone carried weight. Captain Mara Kesh stood on the bridge of the Judicator, eyes fixed on the approaching Zephyrian capital station. The crew moved with precise efficiency. Each operator knew their role, and each maneuver was carefully calculated. This was not a show of arrogance, it was pure discipline. A holographic projection flickered to life, displaying the Zephyrian council members. Elder Vaynor appeared, his elongated features drawn in caution. "Earth's executioners," he said, voice measured. "We expected soldiers. We hoped for support, but not this." Mara's voice was calm, unwavering. "We are here to fight. That is our support. You will see that humans do not merely serve, they execute with purpose." The council exchanged uneasy glances. Even among the most seasoned Zephyrians, there was an unspoken fear in that simple statement. Humans had a history, a reputation that few fully understood. They were adaptable, relentless, and unpredictable. Before formal introductions could continue, scouts detected movement near the edge of Zephyrian territory. Krath skirmish ships were probing, testing the defenses. Normally the Zephyrians would respond with their standard fleets, but Mara made a decision immediately. "All units intercept," she commanded. "Engage silently. Observe first." The executioners' ships moved like predators, slipping through asteroid belts and nebula clouds. When they struck, it was not with overwhelming firepower at first. It was with cunning precision. A small Krath vessel tried to flank the fleet. Mara's lieutenant, Ryan, deployed a net of magnetic pulses that disabled the enemy's engines without harming the crew. "Capture if possible," Mara ordered. "We want intelligence, not unnecessary destruction yet." The Krath crew panicked, unable to understand the sudden efficiency. They had expected conventional soldiers, not humans who thought like predators. Within minutes, the executioners neutralized multiple Krath scouts, capturing one vessel intact. Elder Vaynor watched through a tactical feed, astonished. "These humans. They are not like any soldiers we have seen." "They are not meant to be," Mara replied. "We do not fight as your fleets do. We fight to end threats, not merely to follow orders." The captured Krath pilot, trembling and confused, looked up at Mara through a communication link. Why do you fight like this? You are stronger than anything we expected." Mara's eyes were steady. "Because we must. We fight to protect, to survive, and to win. That is human way." The demonstration had an immediate effect. Zephyrian commanders, long accustomed to meticulous planning and controlled battles, began to realize that these humans brought more than weapons. They brought intelligence, adaptability, and fearlessness. Mara did not just attack. She analyzed, anticipated, and executed plans in real time. Later, in the council chamber, Elder Vaynor spoke quietly to his advisors. "These executioners, they will not simply obey. We must trust them, or they will act independently, and they may not care for Zephyrian rules of war." The humans, however, cared about something else entirely: victory. They did not need alien approval. Every movement, every decision was calculated to achieve the objective, and so far they were flawless. Meanwhile, reports arrived from the Krath. A full reconnaissance force had detected the Zephyrian fleet. They assumed the humans would act like ordinary soldiers. Instead, they were met with ambushes, traps, and psychological tactics that the Krath had never seen. Panic rippled through the enemy lines. One squadron fled before even seeing the main fleet. Mara reviewed the strategic map. "We will force them to reveal their plans," she said. "Divide and conquer. That is the human way." Lieutenant Ron nodded. "Their numbers are larger, but their coordination is predictable. They will not adapt as fast as we do." As the day progressed, the executioners continued their silent strikes, disabling communications, capturing ships, and leaving Krath forces confused and demoralized. The Zephyrians began to murmur among themselves. These humans were not mere reinforcements. They were a force that could tip the balance of war. By nightfall, the Krath had retreated to regroup. Their scouts sent warnings of an unstoppable human fleet. In the Xiphorian council chambers, Elder Vanar spoke again. They are executioners, yes. But are they friend or The stars stretched endlessly as the executioner fleet approached the edge of Xiphorian space. Reports had come in. The Krath Dominion had gathered a massive fleet, far larger than any humans had faced so far. Thousands of enemy ships moved in formation, confident that their numbers would overwhelm the small Xiphorian forces. They did not know the humans had arrived. They did not know the executioners were coming. Captain Marrakesh stood on the bridge of the Judicator, her gaze steady. "Prepare all units. Today we change the course of this war," she said. Her voice carried the calm certainty of someone who had already won, even before the battle began. Lieutenant Ryan adjusted the holographic tactical map. "They have twice our numbers, Captain. Frontline assault will fail." Mara nodded. "Then we will not fight as they expect. Spread out. Use ambushes. Divide their fleet. Confuse them. We fight smarter, not just harder." The executioners moved like shadows across the battlefield. Small strike teams launched in stealth fighters, weaving between asteroids, avoiding enemy scanners. Mines were set along known Krath flight paths. Communications were jammed before the main fleet even appeared. Every move was calculated, precise, and deadly. The Krath commanders, confident in their superiority, laughed at the Xiphorian defenses. They had not expected humans. They had not seen Earth's executioners. When the first wave of human attacks hit, the Krath were caught off guard. Their formations were broken before a single ship was destroyed. Panic spread quickly among their ranks. Captain Mara directed the strike from the Judicator, coordinating multiple squads. "Target command vessels. Isolate them from reinforcements. Do not let them regroup." Using superior tactics, the executioners forced the Krath fleet into narrow asteroid corridors. There, larger ships could not maneuver, and smaller human craft could strike with devastating efficiency. Mara's fleet disabled weapons and engines, capturing some ships and leaving others stranded. A Krath warship attempted a flanking maneuver, hoping to strike the Judicator directly. Mara anticipated the move. "Deploy interceptors to block their path," she commanded. Within moments, the enemy vessel was trapped, unable to move, its crew bewildered. The humans' success was not just in weapons. It was in their adaptability. Krath leaders could not predict what the executioners would do next. Every human ship seemed to appear where it was most needed, as if they were everywhere at once. The Krath began to fear these small, precise attacks more than any full-scale assault. On the ground, Xiphorian strategists watched the humans in awe. Elder Vanar muttered, "They do not fight like any soldiers we have ever trained. They do not wait for orders, they act with their own judgment. And yet, they succeed." Captain Mara did not pause. Every decision was calculated, every maneuver precise. She knew victory was not just in destroying the enemy, but in breaking their will to fight. Human tactics were simple but effective. Divide, confuse, and eliminate. The Krath had never encountered such relentless logic combined with fearless action. Hours into the battle, the Krath flagship attempted to rally its forces. Mara smiled faintly. "All units converge on their command. Cut off escape routes. Leave no room for retreat." The executioners moved with perfect coordination. Mines, stealth fighters, and the Judicator itself created a trap. The Krath flagship tried to maneuver, but it was too late. Engines disabled, shields down, crew in panic. Their command structure collapsed. Within moments, surrender signals were transmitted from multiple ships. The once confident Krath fleet was in disarray. Lieutenant Ron turned to Mara. "They never expected this. They thought numbers were enough." "They were wrong," Mara nodded. "They never learn until it is too late. That is why we are executioners." The Xiphorians, who had once doubted humanity, now watched with cautious admiration. The humans had not only won the battle, they had reshaped the battlefield itself. Krath prisoners whispered tales of these terrifying Earth warriors, calling them shadows that could strike anywhere, unstoppable and precise. As night fell over Xiphorian space, the executioners regrouped. Ships had sustained minimal damage and morale was higher than ever. Mara addressed her fleet, her voice calm but commanding. "Today we showed the galaxy that humans do not fight like others. We act, we adapt, and we win. Rest now. The war is far from over, but the path is clear. The Krath Dominion, once confident and brutal, had suffered a shocking defeat. Entire sectors were lost, and their leaders realized that humans were more than soldiers, they were predators, executioners who could think, adapt, and strike with deadly precision. Captain Mara gazed out at the stars, her expression unreadable. We have made our mark, but the galaxy is vast and threats remain. Our work is only beginning. And so humanity's reputation began to spread. They were no longer just allies. They were executioners, a force that would redefine war and make every enemy think twice before underestimating them. The galaxy had begun to whisper about Earth's executioners. Across Xiphorian systems, civilians and military alike spoke of humans with cautious awe. They were efficient, fearless, and unpredictable. Warriors who could strike where others could not, and whose victories seemed almost effortless. Yet admiration was mixed with unease. In the Xiphorian council chamber, Elder Vaynar paced slowly. These humans, their methods are unlike anything we know. They do not follow our rules, yet they win every battle. Can we trust them? One advisor, his voice trembling, replied, They are powerful, yes. But what if they act for themselves? What if their goals are not ours? Vaynar paused, looking at the holomap of the Krath positions. We have no choice. We need them. But we must watch closely. Humans do not act like allies, they act like executioners. Meanwhile, Captain Marrakesh prepared her fleet for the next phase. Reports indicated the Krath were regrouping in the Outer Rim, attempting to consolidate forces. Their leaders were desperate, sending envoys to negotiate and rally remaining fleets. Humans did not wait for threats to become overwhelming. They struck first. All units, Mara said, standing firmly on the Judicator's bridge. We will dismantle their command before they can reorganize. Strike fast, strike precise, and leave nothing to chance. Remember, we are executioners. We do not falter. Lieutenant Ron nodded. We have studied their patterns. They will react the same way they always do, predictably. We exploit that. The fleet moved into Krath space with silent efficiency. Humans set traps along known supply routes and communication hubs. Small teams infiltrated enemy ships, disabling weapons and sowing confusion. The Krath, though numerous, were now cautious, unsure of where the next strike would come from. Every human maneuver left them one step behind. Back in the Xiphorian capital, citizens watched as reports arrived of the executioners' strikes. One pilot whispered, They are more than soldiers, they are predators. Another added, They are terrifying but brilliant. We have never seen such control and cunning. The humans' reputation spread quickly, even reaching neutral systems. Some factions began requesting alliances with Earth, fearing what would happen if they did not. Others debated whether these executioners were saviors or forces that could not be controlled. Mara, however, did not consider these discussions. Her focus remained on the enemy, the Krath. As the fleet approached the Krath Central Command, Mara reviewed the intelligence. They will attempt to negotiate or retreat. Both are traps. We will force them into mistakes. Humans adapt. We do not wait for fate to decide. The next engagement was unlike any before. The Krath attempted a massive counterattack, concentrating fire on one flank of the human fleet. Mara had anticipated it. She ordered a diversion, drawing the enemy into a narrow asteroid field. There the humans struck from hidden positions, disabling engines and cutting off escape routes. The Krath were trapped, and chaos spread among their ranks. One Krath commander, captured and trembling, looked at Mara through the communication link. Why do you fight like this? You are stronger, faster, smarter. We cannot understand you. Mara's expression was calm, almost gentle, because we fight to win, to protect, and to survive. That is what humans do. We do not follow blindly. We execute with purpose. The Krath Central Fleet was shattered. Their leaders were scattered, their morale destroyed. The executioners did not celebrate. They simply prepared for the next challenge. Each strike was precise, leaving the enemy weakened but alive enough to spread the tale of human ruthlessness. Back in Xiphorian space, Elder Vaynar watched the aftermath. They are brilliant and terrifying, he admitted to his council. We have gained powerful allies, but we must remain vigilant. Humans do not fight like we expect, and that unpredictability could change everything. Mara, aboard the Judicator, considered the galaxy before her. Humanity's role was clear. They did not simply fight wars, they shaped outcomes. The executioners' victories were not just about strength or weapons, but about strategy, intelligence, and unyielding resolve. They would teach the galaxy that underestimating humans was a fatal mistake, and in that quiet confidence, Mara understood the truth. Humans were no longer just participants in this war. They were a force that could define the future of the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, filled with threats yet unseen. But the humans were ready. They had proven themselves against impossible odds, and the galaxy was beginning to recognize that they were not soldiers to be commo. The stars were quiet as the executioner fleet moved through space, the remnants of the Krath Dominion scattered and disorganized. Captain Marrakesh stood on the bridge of the Judicator, her eyes scanning the tactical map. Every victory had been hard-fought, but humanity had proven itself. The galaxy now knew Earth's executioners were not ordinary soldiers. They were unstoppable. Reports streamed in from the front lines. Krath forces, once confident and brutal, were surrendering without fight. Some had fled to uncharted regions, fearing the humans who had outsmarted and outmaneuvered them at every turn. Other alien civilizations, once neutral, now sought alliances or protection from Earth, realizing that humanity's executioners could decide the fate of star systems. Lieutenant Ron approached Mara, her expression thoughtful. They never expected this. The Krath thought numbers were enough, but they underestimated us. Underestimated humanity, Mara nodded. They always do. But it is not just strength. It is discipline, strategy, and purpose. That is what makes us executioners. That is what makes humans different. In the Xiphorian capital, Elder Vanar addressed the council. Earth's executioners have changed the war in the galaxy itself. We are grateful, but also cautious. Their methods are unlike anything we have seen. They do not simply fight, they dominate, adapt, and survive. We must remember that humanity is not our tool. It is a force of its own. Meanwhile, the Krath leaders gathered in their hidden stronghold, shaken and humiliated. Their empire, once feared across dozens of systems, was now fractured. They are more than soldiers, one Krath commander said, voice trembling. They are predators, executioners, and we cannot defeat them. Back on the Judicator, Mara addressed her fleet. We have achieved much, but do not grow complacent. The galaxy is vast and threats remain. We do not retreat. We do not falter. Our duty is to protect, to survive, and to execute with precision. The executioners moved through the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians. They liberated worlds under Krath occupation, restored order, and ensured that no system could be easily attacked again. Their reputation spread rapidly. Wherever humans went, enemies feared them, allies respected them, and civilizations once isolated sought contact. Captain Mara reflected on the journey. From the moment they left Earth to their first encounter with the Xiphorians, through countless battles, humanity had proven its worth, not through sheer numbers or advanced weapons alone, but through intellect, discipline, and relentless determination. Humans were adaptable, courageous, and precise, a combination that no enemy could overcome. Even as peace settled over many systems, Mara knew vigilance was essential. The galaxy was full of potential threats, and the executioners would be ready. Humanity had sent soldiers, yes, but the galaxy had received something far greater. A force that could shape the fate of stars. A force that commanded respect and fear alike. Elder Vanar visited the executioners' fleet in person for the first time. He watched Mara and her officers conduct training drills, observe battle simulations, and plan operations. Your people are extraordinary, he admitted quietly. You have given us victory, but also a new understanding of power. We must ensure the galaxy knows that Earth is not merely a participant, it is a master of war in its own right. Mara nodded, her gaze steady. We do not seek domination, Elder Vanar. We seek survival and order. But make no mistake, those who threaten the galaxy will face us. If they call for soldiers, they will receive executioners. Across the galaxy, the Krath Dominion collapsed entirely. Their fleets dissolved, leaders fled, and once feared systems were free. Tales of the executioners reached the farthest corners, inspiring awe and fear. Some species began studying Earth's military strategies, hoping to understand the humans' methods. Others swore never to face them in combat. On Earth, humanity watched the news from the stars with quiet pride. They had sent their best, their elite, and they had succeeded beyond expectation. The executioners had shown that humans were not weak, not submissive, and certainly not to be underestimated. They had redefined what it meant to be a warrior in the galaxy. As Mara looked out into space, she felt the weight of responsibility. The executioners had won this war, but the galaxy was always changing. New threats would appear, but humanity would be ready. They were not just soldiers, they were executioners, a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and unstoppable force. And in that quiet certainty, the galaxy understood one undeniable truth. Earth's executioners were here, and their mark on history was permanent. The stars shimmered with distant possibilities. But one certainty remained. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer uncertain. The executioners would guard it, and the galaxy would never forget that when Earth answered the call, it did not send soldiers. It sent executioners.